So what have we learnt this morning? Well, Simeon Brown, the SOE Minister, has told us there is no bailout, there is no cash injection for Air New Zealand, despite its current woes. They're on their own, quote unquote. We'll bring you that interview shortly. And Winston Peters, the Foreign Minister, has been on the show saying that he thinks the war in the Middle East will be over before many people think, i.e. soon. Let's go to our political panel. David Seymour, the ACT leader, and Chlöe Swarbrick from the Greens. Morena, good morning, guys.
Morena.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Air New Zealand, David, does this strengthen or weaken the argument for trying to get rid of it?
Well, you can make the argument about who should own it, but right now the question is how does it survive? I think the key criticism I've made in the last few weeks is that these challenges will always come. Every airline in the world is now facing this. The war is taking up a lot of jet fuel, for example, along with problems with oil supplies generally. But depending on how focused an organisation is, the more easily it can overcome it. The critique I've made is that Air New Zealand has been doing just about everything an organisation could possibly do, pursuing all sorts of quasi-political causes and special projects, but they haven't been working on how they repair their balance sheet after COVID and make themselves ready to take.
Is that fair, though? Is that fair? I mean, what percentage are they spending? Are they actually spending on so-called woke causes? You know what I mean? Do you know?
You can ask for a percent. You can ask for a percentage, but the issue is what's your focus. So when you get into work in the morning and say, right, we can only do so many things. You know, in life you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And if the first three of the first five things on your list aren't taking off and landing on time and doing it for a competitive price, then you're in trouble.
All right. Chloe, does argument can go one of two ways, because on one hand it's like they're looking at putting up prices, they're looking apparently at cutting routes, and they're making a loss. So it's like, well, why do we own them, cut them loose? On the other hand, you know, it shows how much we need them.
I mean, the founder of the ACT Party sold off Air New Zealand a few decades ago now, and we had to buy it back just over 10 years later, as the Right Honourable Winston Peters alluded to earlier.
The government chose
and
to.
The ACT Party and right-wing parties make the argument that we should be selling public assets, whether they're making money or losing money. So it's not a logical argument, it's an ideological and dogmatic argument. But back to the core point, Air New Zealand represents critical infrastructure and a public utility to get people around this country at the moment. And what that means with public utilities is that they are not always going to be in a position to be making money. We need to be supporting them regardless of whether they are in that position or not, or they fall over. And this is precisely the risk that we're also running right now with the likes of New Zealand Post.
So that means what? You need cash injection. I mean, if needs be, cash injections, you'd be open to all that sort of stuff? Yeah. Okay.
It means we need all of the facts and all of the evidence on the table, and we need to be making rational, evidence-based decisions about how we ensure that our country is connected up, because we cannot allow our national air carrier to fall over, because that leaves so many gaps for the people of this country. And I just really like us to have, again, all of the evidence on the table. Right now the government's holding all of the cards on that and threatening all of us with potentially selling off this asset in the next term of government. Which, by the way, I just make the point, I was asking these questions to the Prime Minister in the House about a year and a half ago now, and he was making the point that I was a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, I know.
It's now out in the open.
Chloe, I saw it all happen in the House. David, can I just ask you one question?
Can I just make...
All right, you do one point, I'll do one question.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard a lot just now, but I just make the practical point for people in many regions of New Zealand. Air New Zealand doesn't fly there. Actually, it's your Air Chathams, your Origin Air. It's actually these plucky upstarts that are providing that service. So the idea for many New Zealanders that Air New Zealand is their public utility and their lifeline, that's gone long ago. It's actually competition and free enterprise.
Yeah, all right. Well, they're in a lot of trouble too this morning. Hey, just want to quickly clarify, David, how much of a bottom line for you is flicking off Air New Zealand's state asset sales?
Well, we've never said anything like that, Ryan. What we have said is that in order to own Air New Zealand, you've got to hold about $1 billion of debt that you could pay off if you didn't own it. That takes $50 million a year in interest payments that the taxpayer's paying. And then you say, well, what if it makes a loss? What if something like this happens? You have to make a bailout. I just think people need to keep in their mind, you can hear all this stuff about ideology and characterisation, all that, well, sure. But my question is, what public benefit are we actually getting when many of the regions that
no, that's
say
fair.
they relied on it.
But the question was whether it's a bottom line or not. Sounds like
it doesn't seem to make money.
Sounds like it's not a bottom line.
Well, the answer is no. But the answer, to, you go back to Chloe saying we need evidence and so on.
All right, we're moving on.
Ask about this practically rather
The
than
evidence
ideology.
is the
We're moving on.
that
We're moving on.
His founder sold it. We had to buy it back.
All right,
over.
we're flying Jetstar. We're moving on. Hey, the Iranian
I don't think
women's
so.
the Iranian women's football team. Did you say I don't think so? Do you not fly Jetstar?
No, we're talking about supporting our national air carrier, mate.
Chloe supports them from right up the front of the plane.
All right. Hey, the Iranian.
Your flying patterns, if you like, David.
Absolutely. What would you like to say about them?
Let's go, Ryan.
Let's go. Okay.
No. Chloe, what do you want to say?
No, it's getting awkward. Okay, the Iranian women's football team sought asylum. There were 5 members, 2 more apparently. When the plane was leaving the tarmac, said we want to stay too. The Aussies have accepted them. Chloe, is there more we need to be doing on Iranian asylum seekers generally?
Absolutely. This is why last week in the House I asked the Prime Minister as to whether we would extend the same approach that we did to Ukrainians who were in Aotearoa, New Zealand, when Russia illegally invaded Ukraine, to ensure that there was certainty for people who are here to automatically extend their visas for all Iranians who are currently in this country. He said at the time that the government was doing exactly that. As we all know now, he then had to sneak into the House late at night to correct the record because the government is not doing that. So this is the approach that the government should be taking. It is a humanitarian approach to take, and it's the exact same approach that we took to Ukrainians in New Zealand when the war broke out over there. So, long story short, yes, we should be doing that.
David, do you agree?
Well, let's just be clear on, again, facts. What we've done is we've set up a help desk dedicated to Iranian nationals to help ensure that if they need visa extensions, that can be done and decisions can be made as quickly as possible. There's always the possibility of a long-term visa solution, but if you want to look at the history, when that happened was about 4 weeks into the Ukraine war. It was actually the 15th of March. I think the war started on the 22nd of February. So, yep, it's still possible that there'll be some sort of dedicated visa. But I think it's fair to say, if you're following this thing, some people say it'll be over by the end of the week. Other people say it may go on for years. We are reacting to a very difficult situation, and front of mind is the welfare of New Zealanders in the region, those Iranian New Zealanders who fear their own regime even from over here, as we saw with those in Australia just yesterday. So we work through the issues day by day. The comparison to Ukraine is interesting, but even then it actually took nearly a month before they moved on.
Hey, really appreciate you both being on the program this morning. Thank you for that. As always, David Seymour, the ACT leader, and Chlöe Swarbrick from the Greens.